Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Five Lug Racing. With you as always, my name is Don, my partner in crime, Ryan. Man, we have another special guest for you guys today. I'm so excited for this visit that we're about to go through. Of course, we got to shout out our amazing, wonderful sponsor, KK's Diecast Community. They're on Facebook. He's got all your diecast, all your NASCAR memorabilia. He's got all sorts of deals and raffles set up. Make sure you go check out his page there on Facebook. We will leave his link in our description for you guys to check out. Ryan, it's so great to see you, bud. You know, we get to do these interviews with incredible members throughout the sports industry of NASCAR. We got another one for you guys today. What do you got for me, bud?
Well, this is really something special that we got cooking. It's always great when we get to share the stories of those within the sport, the men and women who are so hardworking and make this sport go round. And today's no different. We're going to have a guy who jumps over the wall and helps service one of these vehicles. We have today the rear tire changer from Trackhouse Racing on Shane van Gisbergen's car. JP Kealey, please welcome to the show, JP. JP, great to see you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for being here, taking time on your day off to come to the Five Lug Racing Show. We really appreciate it. JP, first things first. I wanted to chat with you about something. You might be the first Canadian we've had on the show. If I'm not mistaken, you're from Canada naturally, right?
Sure am. Born and raised in Ottawa, Ontario.
Wow, Canada, eh? That's awesome. So, one of the things we want to do, obviously, is share your story and your journey into motorsports. And, we don't have NASCAR racing really up in Canada too much. And I know your story didn't start in motorsports, though. You have Canada upbringing. And then you end up coming here at later, after high school, if I'm not mistaken. But I want to paint the whole picture for everybody. You came here to play sports, but it wasn't to be in an athlete on pit road. So let's start at the beginning.
Yeah, we talked about it before. My dream as a kid was to be a professional lacrosse player, and play the National Lacrosse League. It's what I wanted to do my whole life. And part of doing that was going to play Division I lacrosse. So I played Division I lacrosse at Robert Morris University, and then from there ended up getting drafted in the first round of the National Lacrosse League. Played for a couple years, and then during COVID, everything shut down, many leagues shut down, all that kind of stuff. And I got an opportunity to try this out. And, I was still pretty set on playing lacrosse. And I saw it as an opportunity to kind of prove to myself that I was more than just a lacrosse player. Anybody that knew me knows that lacrosse was my entire life. And I was obsessed with it. I dedicated everything to it. But, it was something that I wanted to prove to myself that I could kind of step into any arena and excel at. And there's some other, things that I was looking at doing as well. But this kind of just stuck with me, and I just kind of jumped on it. And, ended up being one of the best decisions I've ever made. So.
That's incredible. Now, before we dive deeper into that best decision you've ever made, I want to talk about the lacrosse journey first a little bit because Robert Morris, I'm a Pennsylvanian. So you were on the opposite side of my state, over towards Pittsburgh side. And for those who aren't familiar with Robert Morris, but you mentioned first round draft pick, and you kind of come through that really quickly, but that's a huge deal, man. First round, 10th overall in 2017. What is that process like going from, you staged yourself, played lacrosse in high school. Obviously, were you recruited to Robert Morris, first of all?
Yeah, I've been on like we were talking about before the show. I've been on some lacrosse podcasts, and I have a pretty interesting story in lacrosse community as well. I was kind of a late bloomer, so I was pretty under recruited. And I went to Robert Morris because they ended up having the most professional lacrosse players. Us and Ohio State have the most professional lacrosse players active, I think, for like the past 10 years. Like every year we have the most in the league. So I was fortunate enough to get recruited by them late in my high school years, and I went there. I started as a freshman. I won team MVP, led the league and led the team in scoring, and then I tore my ACL right before our first game my sophomore year. Got surgery, came back, tore my ACL again. Played
Oh
on
my
it.
goodness.
Played on it for 8 months. I made it to our first game against Penn State. Played there. Played against Penn State, and then in warm up, our second game of the year, felt a bunch of pops. I had a torn meniscus and ACL. My meniscus ended up getting flipped inside my knee, and I couldn't move it. So I ended up getting surgery again. I left the team to pursue playing pro lacrosse. It took me 16 months to get back. So I dropped, like, stopped playing. I stopped playing. I still went to school, finished the semester, went home, and I just focused all my time and energy to being in the gym and giving a run at being a pro lacrosse player. At that point, I'd torn it twice and didn't really know, this might be it. I might as well, if I'm going to tear it again, I might as well tear it, trying to play pro and not college. And so that's what I did. And I went from I didn't play for 2 years while I was trying to come back before the summer season, where there's a bunch of pro guys that play summer ball, and if you're trying to get drafted, you play in that league and get scouted and all that kind of stuff. And no one really knew who I was because I was off the map for 2 years, and I kind of surprised myself. I had a pretty amazing year, and I went from not even being projected to being drafted to 5 months later being selected in the first round. So that's a big part of who I am, is overcoming both of those ACL meniscus surgeries and all of the mental anguish and kind of losing your identity as a person, and the fight back to getting my life back and getting who I thought I was. I talked about doing this to kind of prove to myself that I was more than just a lacrosse player. I mean, that was a big thing that I struggled with at the very start of all of those injuries. Was lacrosse was the one arena in life where I was confident. Like, I knew I could step on the floor. People knew who I was, and I had a presence, and, I was physical. I liked the scoreboard up, and I had, some style, and, it was the one place in the world where I felt confident. So when that was taken away, that was really hard. And like I said, it's kind of led me to this moment where I had another opportunity to kind of prove to myself that lacrosse was just a vessel, and, I'm more than that. And I can, take that same energy and drive and tenacity and put it into something else and thrive and excel.
Man, pulls up my own heartstrings a little bit here in the knee stuff, because my right leg, without diving in, this is your story, but my right leg has absolutely ruined an aspect of my life, and then there's gifts that come with it. But I get it. I feel you on the knee stuff, man. It hits close to home, real close. But it's amazing, though. You go from all that to a 10th overall pick in the first round. I mean, listen, we see the spectacle that, one of the biggest sports in America, the NFL, puts on their draft. And, I don't care what sport it is, getting selected in the first round of a professional sports draft is a huge feat, huge accomplishment. And, I followed a little bit of, through the homework, your journey in, and I came across something that was really, really neat. And I know it's probably been talked about a bunch in your lacrosse communities and the podcast you've been on, but I'd be not doing my job and due diligence if we didn't talk about it. So you're on the Buffalo Bandits, and you're playing my Philly Wings. And you know exactly what I'm about to talk about. This behind the backwards goal. Just a thing of absolute beauty. Can you walk us through that and relive that moment a little bit for us? Because, man, this thing, and I'll show the clip too.
Yeah, I mean, anyone who knows me or has played with me knows that I play a different style. I like to throw a lot of different things that people don't, and it got me in trouble a lot of times younger. I'm kind of one of those players where either you love me or you hate me. So it didn't work a lot. Some coaches didn't really like it because in my mind, the way I look at it is I throw that shot more than anybody else. Like, I think more than anybody else in the world. I practice it more than anybody else, so I know that I can throw it. And the team I'd played on prior wasn't so keen on me doing that. And I'd throw it in practice and it'd go in all the time. And I was still a little gun shy just because of the previous team I was on. And on the bench, one of my teammates kind of got in my face a little bit and was like, "Hey, we couldn't score. Like, we just couldn't figure them out." And they're like, "Hey, why don't you throw backhand? You throw on every practice. Like, no, like it goes in all the time. You never throw one in a game." And so I was like, "All right, bet." So I go out. I got one. And it was real deep. I don't know if I've seen anyone throw one from that deep, but I got it. I saw an opportunity, and I just hung that thing at my ankles and let it fly, and caught him with it. It was it was pretty cool. And I mean, fans in Buffalo are great, so it's fun to score there. It's fun to play there. And ironically enough, that was my very last game before COVID. So that was the last game I ever played and the last goal I
Wow.
ever scored. Yeah, I didn't know it at the time, but the last game and last goal that I ever scored.
And you got to throw one of your sauciest goals, man. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
that is a way to walk off into the sunset if you had to do it, man. That's a highlight reel that is going to live in infamy. I mean, because that was a screamer, and I admittingly, lacrosse is not a sport I actively follow as much as some others. When it comes to ball and sticks type of sports, and I do coach. I coach football. I coach soccer. So I understand the dealing with different personalities and those players who want to push the limits and thresholds a little bit. But sometimes as a coach, you have to step back and go, we need that a little bit sometimes, and you just have to find a way to make it work with your team. So I'm glad you found a team that did accept that, and your teammates certainly. That was that goal is just absolutely absurd, and man, what a highlight in the last one ever. So COVID, hits obviously, like you mentioned, a lot that set this whole journey up, this next chapter in your life up, where one season of life is over, the next one begins. And I mean, 2020 was a year for everybody. I'm sure we all have our thoughts on, navigating through that. And um, can you walk through the process of where the lacrosse thing obviously is on freeze, and then you get this opportunity in NASCAR. How was that presented to you, and where were you at the time? Were you living in Buffalo?
No, I was living in Ottawa,
Okay.
Canada still. So when I played lacrosse, I was doing a couple of things. I was the coach of a recruiting program. So to get kids to go to Division 1, 2, 3 schools and stuff like that. So I helped to run that. I was also a personal trainer. And then I was playing lacrosse on top of that. And so all of that kind of got shut down because no, you can't do any of those things during COVID. In Canada, we were a little more strict. Um, so during that time, I trained mixed martial arts before that, and so I kind of like all the gyms shut down unless you're a pro athlete, and so the MMA gym was still open. So I just dove headfirst into that, and I was training 3 hours a day, and kind of fell in love with that, and was toying with the idea of maybe following that. And like I said, in the back of my mind a little bit, I was like, yeah, I wanted to continue playing lacrosse, but I also wanted to prove myself I could do something else too. Um, so I still had intentions of playing lacrosse, but I was during that time, that's all I could do. So I went in there and competed every day, and I was loving every minute of it, and still continue to do that, and then get ready for lacrosse. And I was watching Formula One Drive to Survive on Netflix, and there was an episode about pit crews. And I remember I was like, I'm pretty sure they have like ex pro athletes and stuff do like NASCAR pit crews. So I searched it up on my phone and saw there was like college football players, NFL football players, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously our phones listen to everything we do. And I was going to go take my dog for a walk the next day after I searched that. And on the Apple Podcast app, there was a podcast that popped up of Sean Pete, who's from Canada. It said pro hockey player from Canada to NASCAR. So I listened to that. and that kind of got me a little intrigued. So I'm the kind of person like I'll take risks. So I was like, you know what, let me find this guy and give him a shout, see what's going on. So I found him on LinkedIn, sent him a message. He told me to come down and try out. And well, actually, I sent a message in our group chat. A bunch of pro lacrosse players, like my friends from college, that we all played pro at the time, and I made a joke about. I was like, "Oh, I'm going to be a NASCAR pit crew athlete," as a joke, and then I was like, texted them back, and then 24 hours later, and I was like, "Would you guys believe if I got a tryout in 24 hours?" And they're like, "No way!" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So then I ended up going down to try out and see it all, and I still like, it was a cool opportunity. I wanted to check it out, but I wasn't completely sold on it. I still wanted to play lacrosse, and I went there, and I just felt like this pull to be like, do it. I was like, if I don't, I might never get this opportunity again. And like I was saying earlier, it's an opportunity for me to prove to what I already know, like whatever I set my mind to, I can excel at. And I remember I left, and when I was on my way home, Pete called me. He's like, "We really think you'd be good at this. We really want you to do it." And on the phone there, I was just like, "Screw it." I was like, "Let's do it." And then I texted my GM and told him I was going to retire. And then I moved my life here 4 years ago next week. I moved down here, and with no promises of anything, just figured it out. And do what I always do, put my nose down, trying to outwork everybody in the room, and got to the point where I'm at now.
So I've got to ask, did you have any form of knowledge on auto racing, whether it be Formula One, NASCAR, any of this NHRA, like any kind of drag racing, before you picked up the phone to call Sean and before you got your opportunity?
Zero.
Wow.
Ironically enough, my uncle actually used to race. Like, he used to
Okay.
short track race, and my dad and my grandfather used to like be his pit crew. So he used to like race in Canada, and he watched NASCAR. Like, I've seen him on like Sundays watching it, but like, to me, it was just in the background, right? Like, it was never anything that I sat down and watched. And I knew he raced cars, but like, I was never, I don't know anything about racing really until I started doing this. And then I'd go on YouTube and I would start learning, and I would watch videos on like pit stops and all that kind of stuff. So I did a lot of like research on my own before I got here. But like, up until that moment, like, absolutely none, zero. I'd never even watched a race.
Wow.
That's insane, man. That's bonkers. But you know what? That's talk about a roll of the dice and throwing something to the wall and hoping it sticks, man. And safe to say it has. So this was in 2020. You moved your life 4 years ago, basically. We're in 2025 season right now. And a fun fact I came across, you are the only pit crew member who has been with SVG in all 5 of his career wins. And obviously, we know 4 have been this year. Congratulations. You're not far removed from the trip to victory lane. But then that means you were there in Chicago in 2023. Was that your first cup victory in Chicago?
It was, yeah. And it was a pretty cool moment because we had some there was me and my old roommate, Brennan Foley. We were the young guys. And then we had some older guys on the car that had, been doing it for 8, 10 plus years, and never had a cup win. So it was pretty cool to get that win with them. And then, for us, we were just 2 years into the sport and we got our first win. So that was pretty special. Like I said, to share with those guys, like, I know how much it meant to them. And, you see, like, cup wins don't come around very often. They're very, very hard to get. And, I'd been chasing one ever since that moment. And we had some chances last year and it just didn't happen. And you realize how tough it is. And, even this year, we've been so blessed and lucky with the team and the driver, obviously Shane, that we have to be able to execute 4 times. And I think right now it hasn't really hit, but I think as time passes, you'll start to realize how crazy that really is, and how special this year is. So, just trying not to take things for granted right now. Things are pretty amazing and pretty good, and just continuing to try and do what we can to put him in a position to do his thing and win. So I'm feel pretty grateful again, just for this year and how everything's transpired, and just to be in this position. Honestly, it's, I never thought in a million years I'd be here, and like I said, it's taking that leap and betting on myself, knowing nothing about this, and trying to give myself a better life. And I know now that I made the right choice, and I'm really happy, to be here.
Can
Yeah.
you talk to us a little bit about the difference in that first win in Chicago a couple of years ago, and fast forward to 2025 Watkins Glen, fresh off your most recent win, and kind of the feelings? Like, does it change? Is it more exciting? Is it like, talk to us a little bit about that?
So I mean, like I said, it was my second year in the sport when I won the first one in 2023, and so Shane comes over. We know nothing about him, right? We just know he's a supercar driver from New Zealand, and not that I knew a lot about racing anyway to begin with, but so he comes over, and they're saying he's going to be really good, and all of a sudden he qualifies second, and I'm like, oh, dang, all right, like we might actually have a shot to win this tomorrow. So the next day they were racing, and because it rained and they had to get it done by a certain time in Chicago because there was no lights there, obviously.
Right.
They had to shorten the race, which allowed other teams that had pitted earlier to not have to pit again. So even though they weren't running up front all day, they were ahead of us. So it messed up our pit strategy a little. So we were in 18th, and we had to drive from 18th to first. And I was like, oh, well, I guess the race is kind of over now. And I remember like road crew guys sitting and staring at the times, and they're like, he's going to do it. He's going to do it. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, we have enough laps where he's going to catch everyone. And so I just started watching, and I'm like, dude, one at a time, just passing everyone. I'm like, oh my gosh, is he gonna actually do this? And he just ran everybody down, which was pretty insane to see. So
And then real quick, as far as perspective goes, all the fans at home are watching this, and they're like, one, we can't pronounce this guy's name yet. We've never heard of him. He's completely ripping up all of our favorite drivers simultaneously. And everybody at home's just like, what is going on right now? So it's got to be a similar feeling that y'all were experiencing there in the pits that day.
Yeah, like I said, we had no idea who he was at the time, and as I had said earlier, not that I knew a lot about racing to begin with, but I just saw that we qualified second, and I was like, all right, he must be pretty dang good, and clearly he was. And little did I know that he was going to come over here, and then I would be pitting for him, the last 2 years now. So.
Absolutely incredible. So fast forward to your Watkins Glen win, and not to sound cocky, but to have like a certain amount of confidence when you walk into, especially with Shane and road course racing. Does you and your team walk in with like a little bit of swag, a little bit of, let's take care of business this weekend, guys?
Yeah, I mean, especially for us, I mean, with the backward stop races, I mean, honestly, with all of them, but with backward stops, it's different choreography, and so we're pretty conservative, and basically for us, it's like as long as we don't mess it up, like we're not going to win the race for the road courses, right? There's other races where pit stops are pretty important, and they're going to make a big impact. Road courses aren't one of them. So it's like, hey, get them tight, don't have any big mistakes, and let him take care of business. So for us, it's just go out there, be smooth, and do our job. We don't got to break any records. We don't got to do anything. Like, let the other people on pit road try and go a million miles an hour to catch us, because we don't have to do anything. Like, we just got to make sure that we don't mess up. And then like stop races like Sonoma, I think it's a little easier because you're doing regular stops like you do all the time, so you can run a little faster, and it's more comfortable. And but again, it's the same thing. It's like, go out there and just make sure you do your job. Like, we don't need to do anything crazy. He's the best in the world at those road courses. You just got to let him do his thing and make sure we put him in position to be there at the end. So no, I just feel like you show up there on race day and just do your job. There's no it's different than other sports, like playing lacrosse. Say you walk in there, you gotta have a little bit of an attitude, a little bit of swagger or whatever. There's some physicality in it. It's like, I'm not going out there and hitting guys or doing anything. I'm going out there, pulling tire off, putting a tire on. Like, there's no need for me to try to, like, puff my chest out and whatever. I just got to go out there and execute and do my job. That's more of like, if you were a driver, I feel like maybe that might be something you go in and be like, yeah, I'm gonna beat all you guys today, kind of thing. But for us, it's just like, hey, do your job and let him, he's going to win. So let's just not mess it up.
I love it.
Yeah, I love it. Can respect that approach as well. It's more of a quiet confidence for you guys, and just dot your I's, cross your T's type of thing, and makes total sense. Don't take a driver out of the race. Don't do anything to hurt his day, and let him handle his business on track, which he's done. His win percentage on road courses is something historic. It's something that, we're not accustomed to seeing. It's now 39 starts and 5 cup wins and 39 starts total. That in and of itself, because you speak on how hard it is to win these races, and believe you me, I mean, Don and I've been a race fan since I was in diapers, and I'll be one when I'm in them again. So like, I get it. I know how hard it is to win these races. I know how it is as a fan to see your driver not win races for years. Those highs and lows and all the things that come with the sport. So, for Shane to come in and be an absolute lightning rod, just a jolt of fresh air and energy to this sport, and kind of level up, the playing field on these road courses. I mean, let's be honest, they're all chasing you. You're the rabbit. On Sundays, they got to go get, and they know it. And it's going to take a while, I think, until they can actually catch up to him. And so we got one more left on the season, and I want to talk about Trackhouse as a whole for a second, because I've heard your team owner speak on these things a little bit, and I've heard some of the drivers speak on these things, but I haven't heard a crew member talk about it yet. Let's talk about the house, what you call it, and the culture that has been built there. This is, a team sport. It takes a team to win. And now your guys are gearing up with the second most wins, or tied for the first most wins, I should say, in the series, going into the playoffs with a ton of momentum, ton of extra playoff points. What's the focus going forward for the rest of this year that you guys have been talking about at home?
I mean, for us, it's just kind of getting from a pit crew standpoint. It's just getting some momentum going to the playoffs and making sure that when we get into the first round, that we're ready to roll. Like we don't need to again try and push the limits, but attack and be comfortable. We can push the limits in practice, find them, and then when we get out there, we're at a spot where we're comfortable and we know we're going to be able to compete, pick up some spots or maintain, and go out there and do that, right? And I think you do see a lot of mistakes in playoffs just because the tensions are a little higher and the stakes are a little higher. And I've said this like a million times in different places to my players when I coached on other podcasts, but the moment never knows how big it is. The pit stop doesn't know that it's the money stop. The pit stop doesn't know that it's in the playoffs. It's the moment is the moment, regardless of when it is and when it takes place. So I think that's the biggest thing is, we go out there and we practice every week, and we've done the stop a million times. So you go out there and you do it with the same mindset, whether there's 10 laps to go or whether, there's 10 laps into the race, or whether you're in first or whether you're 30th, you just go out there and you do your job. That's it.
Business as usual.
Yeah, exactly.
I love to hear that approach, and especially with having a driver that is truly a rookie on. He's seeing all these tracks for the first time, now starting to see some of them for the second time. We're starting to see the results, improve on these ovals, especially. And you all just rattled off a really good weekend at Richmond. And it was really impressive to watch his maturation on the track. And I seen him do something that other drivers weren't doing this weekend, and that's pass people up high. He is finding a way to make things work for him, and that's when that starts to click. That gets scary for the rest of the field, because not only do you have to compete with him on these road courses, but these ovals too. Oh, by the way, he can drive a race car. He's not just a one-trick pony, and that's what I'm tired of hearing from somebody who has to read the comment section. So I'm glad to see that P14 roll off. That was a really good race for you guys. Congrats on that. Good momentum going into Daytona, the cutoff race, and then, the playoffs begin. I know we're getting a little closer on time, but I wanted to ask you another question regarding your journey to Trackhouse Racing and just, your over the wall journey. Your rear tire changer. Was that kind of like when you went to this tryout? Was that kind of like the predestined spot that they had seen for you, or did you try a couple different positions?
Yeah, I mean, so I went there, I watched practice, worked out with the team, and did a couple of different things. But when I first came in, it was the last year of Five Lug, so they were still in the middle of the season, at the end of the season, because I came last week 4 years ago, so it would have been just towards playoffs. And I gravitated more towards the tire carrier. I saw when I watched the stop, he's carrying two big tires, running out in front of the car. Like there's just a lot of movement, and I like that. Um, and so that's what I did. I carried, and whenever I do Five Lug, I carry. I don't change in Five Lug. And then once we switched to One Lug after that season, they're like, "Well, you're really fast. You've got long arms. Let's put a gun in your hand." And then they put a gun in my hand 3 months before Daytona, and then I was at the racetrack doing Justin Haley. So I'd only been changing tires for 3 months, and then I was on a Cup car.
What a testament that is to your genuine natural talent. I mean, that's just absolutely incredible. It's not something you truly hear of after 3 months getting that call.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty lucky because everyone was trying to learn the One Lug pit stop, right? So now we're doing One Lug practices, and I was still carrying. So I started a little bit after everybody else because I was in the carrier positions. But it wouldn't be like coming in Five Lug and getting on a Cup car 3 months. Everyone was still trying to figure it out, and I just was able to use my athletic ability to sneak in there and get a spot.
So would you say that you came in at the right time, basically because of that transition? You were able to take advantage of everybody else maybe not being familiar with the One Lug, and you're all learning from the go, basically.
100%, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I was really green. Like when I got to Daytona, like I didn't know like why cautions would come out, when they would come out, also like I was just like no idea what's going on. So it was pretty interesting that first like 3 months just continuing to learn and figure out how everything worked because I had no idea what was going on.
That is amazing to me.
And now has the sport made a lifetime fan for you?
For sure, for sure. NASCAR will always have a special place in my heart. Even whenever I'm done, I'll definitely, still watch. And, some of my best memories ever will be, not in NASCAR. So, it's pretty special. And again, like as a kid, I grew up wanting to be a professional lacrosse player, and that's everything I did, everything I watched, everything I consumed, everything I talked about. And, I had a dream and a goal to do this, and I didn't think that, 4 years later, I'd be sitting here on a podcast talking about my fourth Cup win in one season. So that's pretty, it's pretty cool.
That is, yeah, that is, and you still check that box. You were a first round draft pick in lacrosse, my man. So you can't hang your head on that. You check the box, and you just check the other boxes along with it. We just talked about some of the highs and some of your best memories. And unfortunately, I have to ask you to relive probably one of your worst memories. And you're smirking, so you know where it's going. But we had the privilege to be at Pocono Raceway this past year and cover the event from sun up to sundown. Friday to past Sunday night, into Sunday night. But unfortunately for you, Pocono was not that great of an event. It was scary to watch. And, we talk about you jumping over the wall, and you wanted to do that and all that stuff. And then, but there comes a great risk with that because you're hurling yourself, your body in front of moving race cars, and you're entrusting your cohorts to do their part. And unfortunately, mishap on pit road. AJ Allmendinger coming down, and Shane's coming into his box. AJ's right behind you, and he kind of bumps the tire out of his own. AJ bumps the tire out of his own carrier's hand, and it projects into the air and hits your gun first. It looked like, at least. And maybe you could walk us through this because the gun then goes into your chest. You go down on the ground, and you finished the pit stop with what, broken rib, 2 broken ribs, and a deflated lung. Dude, you're a beast. You're a beast.
Thanks.
But like, can you walk us through that moment and what you had kind of seen? Did you know that was possibility of coming, or did that just happen so quick you had no idea what to expect?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about this a couple of times now, so people might have heard it, but you kind of get used to being around like the cars and having kind of a sixth sense of where they are and all that kind of stuff, and the idea of getting hit by them. But I never really had expected the idea of getting hit by a tire. Ironically, one of my best friends is the tire carrier who dropped the tire, so I make fun of him all the time about it.
That friendly fire, man.
Yeah, he felt really bad. He actually came back and took care of my dog because I couldn't get back. I was in the hospital. So,
True friend.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, I saw it was funny too because we're the only two on pit road, really. We were coming in nose to tail, jumped off. I saw AJ was going to slide through his box, so I checked up and I looked down because I could see his fender like nearing towards my like where I was running, and then as soon as I picked my head up, I just got smacked. So I didn't really have time to react. Yeah, it hit the tire hit my gun, which went into my rib, like just below my armpit. I broke that rib, and then I collapsed my lung. But yeah, as soon as it hit me, I felt a crack, and it took the wind out of me, and I was like, oh, that wasn't good. And then I was like, well, I got to finish the stop. So I picked up my gun, and honestly, I looked at the left rear, and I was like, nope, not that side. And then I ran to the other side. But for a split second, I was about to change the left rear first.
And I saw you on your hands and knees, and you kind of see that play out in real time too, where you have to take a second to realize exactly where you are after the incident had happened. You know, you get hit by those tires got to be upwards of 70, 80 pounds, I'm guessing, maybe 50.
The five lug ones are like 70-ish pounds or something like that. These ones are like 55.
Okay, so you're getting hit with, oh my goodness. And then yeah, like the camera's on you, you're on your hands and knees, and then you just rise up and then make your way to the other side of the car. It was an incredible. I'm glad. First of all, I'm glad you're okay. Second of all, just an absolute beast to get up and finish that pit stop, man. Just, you know, I can't imagine what that would be like to have to get up from something like that. Now, were you able to finish out your day, or was your day done after that that pit stop?
Well, anyone who knows me knows that I'm pretty stubborn. So I fought for a little bit to stay, and they wouldn't let me.
Okay.
So then I went to the infield care center. I fought with them for a little bit, and they wouldn't clear me to race. And then I went out to go watch the guys, and I was staying with my mom and my girlfriend. Luckily, they were there. And then as time went by, I was having trouble breathing, and then I was like, all right, something's going on here. And I was trying not to freak my mom and my girlfriend out. And then I was like, all right, I got to go. So then I turned around, went back, and then that's when everything started happening. They took me to the hospital. But yeah, I mean, like the hit itself, I've said it before, like, you know, you got a job to do, doesn't matter what happens. I've been hit a million times, and you know, the sports I've played and the things I've competed in, you know, you can't just stop doing your job because something didn't go your way. You got to get up and finish it. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to finish the race. I wanted to race the next weekend in Atlanta when they wouldn't let me. So the earliest they would let me come back is Chicago. So that's what I did. But you know, I talked about earlier, like tearing my ACL and all that kind of stuff. Like if I can play through it, I'm going to play through it. I don't care. I've played on a torn ACL, I've played on a torn meniscus. You know, this rib thing is nothing to me. I don't really care about it. I've sat out enough in my athletic career, having to watch from the sideline. So, you know, I doesn't matter what happens to me. I'm going to do everything I can to be out there. If I can physically do it, I don't care what I got to do. I'm going to make sure I can do it.
Oh man, I love it.
Well, we talked about that low because now we get to go to the high, because you come back, and I knew you came back Chicago race weekend because I had seen footage of you standing on the wall celebrating your driver. Your first cup victory was there, and then you come back from injury. You could sort of say rebirth, you know, here I am again in victory lane. Can you explain, you know, having to be a couple weeks off, removed from that injury, to going back to victory lane, the emotions you felt at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it was it was cool. I mean, like I said, this whole year has been awesome. And the whole Pocono situation sucked. And honestly, to me, the hardest part wasn't like the injury. Like, it didn't bother me. I was working out the next week and probably doing things I shouldn't have done. But as I said before, I'm pretty stubborn. But the hardest part for me was not being able to be at the racetrack that next week. Like, I don't want to miss time. So coming back was nice and being able to be there. So for me, it was less about the injury. And I know that's like kind of the story and what people want, but for me, it was less about the injury, more about like not being able to do what I want to do. This is like kind of, like I said, it's kind of replaced lacrosse for me. It's a big part of my life and a big part of what I do. So I don't want that to be taken away from me. I want to be able to do, what I love to do and be out there on race day. And, so yeah, it was cool to come back where I got my first cup win and get another win. It was, it was awesome. So, it's hard really to like put into words how the victories feel sometimes. It's, they never, they always feel, pretty awesome. It's, you never value them less, if that makes any sense. Like, each one is, just as awesome as the next one.
Absolutely. And I got one last one before I pass it off to Ryan to close it up. Talk to us about SVG's celebrations when he's burning that car all the way down to the ground and you guys are standing on pit road and he's coming up to you, high-fiving you. What's that like?
Those burnouts are awesome. He's done it twice now where he puts it against the wall and high fives us.
Yeah,
it's pretty awesome. Once it gets close to you, you're high fiving him. You're just eating Goodyear the whole time. So cough up a couple of tire chunks after that each time, but it's worth it.
It is worth it. Absolutely.
JP, absolutely incredible to have you on here tonight. Thank you for sharing your journey and story with us. And we know that you're just still writing in this chapter of your book. So we hope that we get to do this again, either later this season or sometime next, as the story continues. But thank you so much again for taking time out of your evening. We really, really greatly appreciate you being part of the Five Lug Racing family now.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. It was fun.
Appreciate you.
And best of luck in the postseason.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much, JP.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right,
we're just so incredibly fortunate and blessed to be able to hear the stories from these men and women within the industry. I don't take a single moment for granted, the same way he's talking about he doesn't take his wins for granted in the Cup Series. These are wins for us, man. I feel like a winner every single time we get to hang out with one of these incredible people.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And, this story is no different. The tenacity, the grit, the blue collar drive that this man has, and, just the will that he's putting forward to go do his job. And it's just, it just speaks to the volumes of what it takes to do this job and to do it at such a high premier level. We're in a professional sport, and having to go out and finish pit stops with a deflated lung and cracks in your ribs is just, that's just the stuff that champions are made of. And he's one of them. And, continuing to check, like I said, those goals, those professional goals that he's made for himself. And man, I just wish him all the best.
Absolutely. Great. Well said. Another wonderful episode of Five Lug Racing Show here with you guys. To all of our friends and followers that hung out with us the whole way, make sure you drop your likes and your comments and all that good stuff down there below for us to check out. If you got any questions for JP, throw them down there and we'll make sure he gets them and he gets to answer them for you guys. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Y'all take care.